Hello and welcome back. I am Chris with Marksman Shooting Sports in Westfield, Indiana. You are watching Marksman TV. Today I have a tabletop and range review for you on the FK Brno PSD handgun. We're going to start off with an unboxing and then move through a point-by-point spec overview of this pistol, follow up with a range review, and then give you guys some final takeaways on this pistol. Anyway, if that all sounds interesting to you, please stick around. That's coming up now. Okay, before going any further into this review, I did want to clear up some housekeeping items with you guys, my audience here on YouTube. As you guys have probably seen, this firearm has shown up in a lot of other reviews by other firearms related channels here on YouTube. So FK Brno did approach us with the opportunity to get an early look and review of this handgun for our YouTube channel as part of their sort of early product launch ad campaign, if you will, into the market here in the United States. Okay, for that we were provided with this handgun free of charge. I did not pay for this item, and they are gifting this firearm to us. We get to keep it. Okay, so beyond that, I am not receiving any type of monetary compensation for this review. Now, before I accepted taking part in this ad campaign, I was very upfront and stated that to keep in the spirit of my YouTube channel, I would not compromise the integrity and the trust that my audience has with me, and I would remain very fair, honest, and impartial and unbiased as I review this product. Fortunately, they were absolutely receptive to that, and they expected no less from any of the creators doing a review of their products. So as this goes forward, I am going to stay as absolutely as honest as I have to be on this product to keep your guys' trust in my channel. But if you are considering making a purchase of this firearm based on this review, keep in mind that it did come to us for free, and that is something that you should definitely consider as you continue watching this review. So with that out of the way, let's go ahead and press on into it. All right, starting here with the unboxing. It comes in a cardboard box. Right here is your warranty and instruction information in this little folder. I remove this foam panel, and here is the firearm. Now this does come with 2 magazines in the box. Now the 7.5 FK, the magazines do fit 16 rounds. You use these same magazines for the 10mm and the 40 Smith & Wesson, which you will convert this with this barrel that is also provided. Now I'll get more into that further on into the review. Now they basically have 2 setups that you can order this in. From my understanding, it'll come either in this configuration with a 10mm to 40 and 40 conversion, which uses the same magazines, or you get the 9mm version, which comes with a 9mm barrel, a 9mm recoil spring, and the 9mm magazines, which do hold 17 rounds. Of course, the 10mm uses the same mag as mentioned, but it only holds 10 of 10mm and 13 of 40 Smith & Wesson, or at least 13 is all that I could get into the magazine. Along here, of course, either the 9 or the 10mm barrel. This one has a 10mm barrel, and you have a set of replacement sights, a ghost ring or a peep sight rear, and a triangle red-filled front sight, and of course the tools to do those replacements yourself. Okay, let's go ahead and get into the specifications of this handgun. It is a total length of 9 inches. That's from the muzzle to the back of the hammer here. It does have an overall height of 5.5 inches from the base of the magazine to the top of the sights, and it does have a barrel length of 5.3 inches. Now this is a rather large handgun, and to give you guys a reference for size comparison, this is a standard Glock Model 17. Many of you guys have probably handled or seen before. If you have not handled a 17, here is a dollar bill, kind of to use a dollar bill test. You can pull a dollar bill out of your wallet, kind of get an idea for the size. So the dollar bill reaches about maybe 60 to 70% of the length of the firearm. If we go to the height, we're at about the almost exact height of a dollar bill, and that sort of gives you guys an idea on reference. But if we bring in the 17, sitting this on top, the barrel does extend. I would say that's about a good 1.5 to 2 inches longer from the end of the Glock 17 to the end of this firearm. And keep in mind, the Glock 17 is a standard, what would be considered full-size duty or service sight outside the waistband firearm. So as mentioned before, this is a rather large firearm. Now, the philosophies on this do come within personal defense, like a PDW. They do make a stock that does attach to the base of the magazine well here, which is why you have this metal reinforced collar at the bottom of the grip to give you sort of the size and the ergonomics of what could be considered like a secondary rifle or PDW carbine with that attached. Without it, it does have a good amount of weight to it, but it does balance nicely. But again, overall, a pretty big package. Now, to give you a comparison of the weight, I have a same Glock Model 17 here with no magazine inserted. We are at 1 pound 6.1 ounces. If we take the PSD, we are at 2 pounds 9.2 ounces. So again, quite a bit heavier there than a standard Glock. Pick up a Glock, get an idea for a little bit longer, 1 inch to 2 inches longer here on the barrel length, and about a pound or so heavier. That'll give you a good idea as a size reference point for what you would be handling here on the PSD. Okay, bringing in the slide for comparison, this is machined from a single block of alloy steel, and it does have a nitride finish. Now, the top does have a good amount of width to it as well. Remember, this is chambered in the 7.5 FK, which is a large round as far as pistol calibers are considered. It is a necked cartridge. Okay, here you're going to see that there's an optics plate. You can remove these screws, and this is fitted to adapt basically any of the mainline or popular optics that are available on the market right now. The sights that come on this are a low profile 3-dot, 2 dots in the rear, a single red dot here on the front. Now, as mentioned in the unboxing, there is a second set of sights that this does come with, and you can switch them out to that sort of ghost ring rear and that larger triangle front. If you do want to have a little bit more of a utilitarian style, more usable iron sights, if you are going to use the optic, you might as well just leave these sights on here. Now, on either side of the slide, you're going to see 2 sets of slide serrations, one on the rear, one on the front. On the front, if you want to do any type of press checking, you are going to notice these 2 cocking assist or charging assist screws on either side, which actually, when I used it at the range, is very, very usable for charging the firearm chambering around. If you want to do press checking, that's there too. Now, you are also going to notice that the slide has a very thin profile over the frame, very similar to what you're going to see on most CZ style of firearms. The large sort of protrusion down here is to encompass the recoil spring system, which I'll show you more about when we get into disassembly. Now, there's also really nice stylizing machining that's taken place here on the slide. Actually, the machine, the final fit and finish on this is actually very impressive, very nice. This is a little bit loose. I did tighten it down with a wrench when I got it out of the box, but during firing it did work itself loose. So this is intended to be unthreaded, so you can put any other type of cocking assist wings or nuts on there if you want to. Overall, again, I really like the machining, the overall stylizing and look of the slide. Of course, with the finish as well, just a nice looking slide on the firearm. Okay, let's go ahead and take a look at the trigger, starting here with the trigger pull weight. Now, this is a single action only pistol, so the hammer will have to be cocked to the rear. Here we go. 3 pounds 15 ounces. I'm going to go ahead and try that one more time. 4 pounds 4 ounces, so right there on the edge of about a 4-pound trigger pull. Now, bringing this in close so you guys can take a look at that trigger. Again, remember, single action. So there's a little bit of take up right there, but you immediately hit that wall, start to pull through, right there into a very nice clean break, again at about 4 pounds. Reset, a little bit of travel, right there, reset, right there, again a little bit of that same take up, right there. Show you one more time, reset, travel, reset right there. Traveling back to about the 50% position, about mid-length back, and then right there into a nice clean break. So actually very nice trigger, but again, it's a single action trigger. Most single action triggers are going to have a very short travel as they are, but that is a very nice smooth break. Now, looking at the trigger itself, it is metal in construction and it does have a very wide face, no serrations or anything there. I wouldn't call this like a match trigger or anything, but remember, it is a combat or hunting use sidearm for what it is. Very usable, very nice. And I would even say it's a little bit better than most, standard triggers you find on the market on things like 1911s or any other single action type triggers. Okay, let's go ahead and move into disassembly. I'm also going to take this opportunity to show you the barrel changes. This is a multi-caliber convertible handgun. Starting off, you want to make sure the magazine is out of the firearm. I've already done that here, and of course check that we are clear, and we are. We can go ahead and leave the hammer to the back position. On this side of the firearm, you're going to see a dimple here in the frame. Let that focus there, and a corresponding dimple here in the slide. You want to retract the slide just enough so that those two dimples are aligned. So I'll go ahead and do that here. And then you're going to push on this barrel retaining cross pin. And it'll just, once you have the slide in the right position, it'll just pop out with finger pressure, no tool required. From there, you're just going to allow the slide to come off of the frame. And then there is your barrel and your recoil spring. Real quick before going any further, this is what FK coins as the recoil attenuating system. It is actually a patented design by FK. And it basically works in two facets to mitigate recoil and muzzle flip. Number one, and the most obvious thing first, is this weight right up here at the front of the recoil spring. That is to bring weight or energy downward on the slide as it's being held, or on the firearm itself. And you really do feel that weight when you just pick up the firearm and feel the balance. Now the back end does balance well when you're pointing it, especially when it's loaded, so you have that fully loaded magazine to help you counteract that. But what that's going to do is, upon firing the gun, it's already going to start with a downward motion of the recoil to, again, help you mitigate that recoil flip. The second thing that the system achieves is it puts the recoil axis below the center of axis of the weight of the firearm itself. So most traditional design, like Browning design recoil systems, the spring is typically right up underneath the barrel, which you see on most designs, which puts the center of travel pretty much in line with the center of the balance of the weight of the pistol itself, which isn't a bad design. It's used on many different things, you know, CZs, Brownings, Glock systems, 1911 systems, so a very, very commonly used design. But what this does is, as you can see, the recoil spring is sitting down here in the frame below the center. Usually you'd be about up here, in line with, sort of right above the wrist. This is putting it down sort of in line with the wrist. So it's giving you a direct backward motion. Again, the weight is bringing it down. So you're really reducing that muzzle flip and felt recoil on the pistol. And I will tell you, from shooting it, it's definitely noticeable. Now what you'll see from the range footage, which will be coming up here shortly, on the 7.5 there is definitely still a good amount of recoil, but remember, it's a pretty heavy, it's a pretty stout round with a lot of muzzle energy and pressure behind it. So in order to keep that down and not make it feel like you're shooting a 357 or a 44 Magnum, you know, the recoil spring system definitely helps with that. Now I did also shoot 40, and in this gun this size and with the recoil system, honestly, shooting that and 40 felt like shooting a CZ75 and 9mm. So I mean, it was a really, really light recoil. Again, we'll get into that in a minute. So to continue on with disassembly, you're going to bring the recoil spring forward just enough to where this recoil spring retainer gets off of the sort of front, what I call it, shoulder there of the barrel lug. And then we'll pull out that weight, which just sits in there freely. Barrel pops out. Now these are pretty tight. You kind of have to finagle it a little bit. Again, remember, very precise machining work in here. Does have a Series 80 style firing pin stop here, which you're going to see on a lot of modern handguns, just a safety feature, but the machining precision and work in here is actually very noticeable. Very, very nicely made slide. But moving on, let's take the 10mm barrel, and it's going to drop right back in there. Drop in the weight first, and then the spring. Now you want to get the spring to get through this hole here in the front to allow you room to then move the recoil spring retainer back there into its notch. And then everything else is the same. Again, like the CZ style of handguns, the guide rails are actually wrapped to go inside of the frame, which is what gives you that low bore axis. That just guides right on there. It's the full length, guided into the little channel in this slide. All the way back. From this position, when it's in the forward resting position, go ahead and drop in the pin. Bring those two little dimples back into alignment and push that in. Again, you got to find the sweet spot there. The rest of the way, and you are back and reassembled. So I've got it disassembled here again so you guys can take a closer look at the frame. So this is a high impact polymer, very rugged. I mean, it's similar to what you're going to find on a Glock or any other polymer frame offering like that. Let's take a look at the grip texturing. So you are going to see texturing on the front strap, back strap, and both side panels. This is not very aggressive. It's a very, like I would call a very mild to very light grit, sandpapery type feel. Which I actually personally like. As you guys know from watching, I do not like overly aggressive grips. That feels really good to me. If you need something that's more aggressive, you can get like a Talon grip tape or anything like that. Now at the bottom of the base of the magazine, it is going to be slightly flared. Of course, that's going to help you with guiding that magazine in for magazine changes. And there are notches cut out, which will help assist in grabbing the lip of the magazine floor plate for easily taking that out. Keep in mind, this is a reinforced point for mounting that stock, which you can get on the US market. I don't know if it's available now, but it will be. And of course, if you want to SBR it, you can get that as well. Now that stock is touted as being a very good feature. It's also a patented design by FK for like military and security purposes, which really with that applied to it can get you nice accurate fire out to about 100 meters. Moving along, you're going to see a safety on the left-hand side of the frame, so there is no ambidextrous control as far as the safety goes. Remember, this is a single action only handgun, so if you are carrying cocked and locked, you will want to have that safety engaged just to mitigate that lighter 4-pound trigger working against you in that regard as well. As we've gone over before, the recoil spring housing is a little bit large to accommodate for that lower swept or that lower hung recoil spring. Going inside the channel there, you can see where that rests right all the way down here at the bottom of the frame, which puts you just slightly above the trigger guard, almost right directly above your trigger, giving you that direct recoil impulse, lower recoil axis on the slide, which is not typically found on other recoil systems. Section of 1913 rail here at the bottom. There are no finger grooves, and there is already a beaver tail here cut into the back, so plenty of protection there from that hammer biting you if you do have larger hands. Now internally, you're going to see all of your main components. Guide rail section here, here, and here are reinforced and nitrided as well. Trigger bar, there's the ejector, everything's reinforced where it needs to be. So, pretty standard polymer frame design. Now you guys might know about the field pistol, which is very similar to this, but that's an all steel construction, quite a bit heavier on the price point, $7,500, whereas this is, going to be retailing at about, I believe, the $1,700 price point. So now next up is the range review footage. I'm going to give you guys some commentary as I move through this, as I did have some issues with the firearm, and I want to address these issues with you as well as the steps that we took as I spoke with the representative at FK. Starting it off, this was actually my first magazine. Now, this was actually one of 2 handguns that I had during this testing phase. The one that you're seeing now is serial number 28. The one that has been in this video has been serial number 27. That issue before was the magazine was not fully seated. As you'll see me throughout the rest of the testing, I was sure to actually make sure I tapped in that magazine. So on a fully loaded bag, it's going to be pretty standard. You're going to have some difficulties getting that to seat on a closed slide, which is what issue I had here. So not uncommon after I learned my mistake going through the rest of the testing with this particular handgun, serial number 28. Did not have any other issues getting any other mags inside the firearm. Now also, I noticed through here, and again, these are some of my very first shots through this particular pistol, you are going to notice a little bit of recoil there, but keep in mind on this 7.5 FK, it is a large and a very high energy handgun. So I would say like the recoil impulse is typical of what you might get out of like a 45 ACP out of a 1911, but the muzzle energy and the velocity is much higher than a 45 ACP. So with that recoil system, it was really good in counteracting the balance of that. I didn't really notice how good of a job it was doing because I had never really fired a 7.5 FK before until I got to the 40, which you'll see towards the end of this video. So the firearm, the ammunition that was tested out of this, they had two different types of loads, the high terminal effect target ammunition, as well as a game load. Now FK Brno did provide me with 250 rounds of ammunition for the testing of this firearm. Now on this test I did shoot both. Again, this is handgun number 1. And I'll explain here in a minute what happened. Now, there was no issues. I fired about 150 rounds through this handgun, and after, the first thing, the magazine failing to seat, which was my fault, I did not have a single jam, malfunction, hang up at all with the handgun. It was a joy to shoot. The sights already on the pistol were pretty low profile, which, not the best for target use. But again, already came ready to go with a better set of sights, which I did not install on the firearm, and ready to be used with an optics plate. Again, for extra stability, there is a brace, or not a brace, but a stock option. Now, here was my problem, and the problem was, as I did inspect the brass, and I did notice cracked casings in the neck. Now, a cracked casing is not in and of itself inherently an issue that's like a tremendous issue. It is an issue. What you can get out of a cracked casing is, of course, early erosion of the chamber inside the barrel. And of course, this is indicative of the casings not meeting the, or not able to withstand the pressures that are going on within the casing itself. A common cause of this is a fault in the annealing process around the neck. This is a necked casing, so that is a weak point in the brass. Now, I did bring this to the attention to my my point of contact at FK Brno. He was very concerned and also very happy that I had found this information and had gotten it to his attention so that they could take a look at what was going on with the brass. Now, he did give me some privileged information about the brass manufacturing, and it alluded to their possibilities for, an understanding of what was going on with the brass, and they were definitely looking into that. And the suspect there was an annealing issue. So with that, they wanted full disclosure of the issue, as well as the steps that they are taking to make sure that, when the gun comes fully out to market and is sold in mass, that, the ammunition issue is at least addressed and hopefully resolved. Now, I did get back a second firearm, which is the one that you guys have seen so far in this review, and that's serial number 27. Here on the range, they also sent me a completely different set of ammunition. This one I had some problems with that you guys are going to see, and it was beyond the necks of the casings that were cracking, which actually continued to happen with this. They had said that they sent me a batch of ammunition that was separate from the one that was provided to me initially for further testing, and I had the same issue. On the first round, I had 8 split casings out of 150 rounds fired, of which I recovered about, I believe, 100 pieces of brass, maybe 120, I can't remember. This one was a similar fail rate on the cracked casings. There you just saw that I had an incomplete the round did not fully chamber into the round, into the chamber, so that had to be extracted. Of course, that was the first magazine from this handgun, so no break-in periods or anything were given to this. Continuing on with the test, and I'm sorry about the focus there. Camera seems to be wanting to focus on the back. There the hammer dropped, and this is kind of off camera, but what that was actually was a light primer strike. I extracted it out. Right there, that was a light primer strike, ejected out a live round, and back to firing. And I believe throughout the rest of this testing on the 7.5 ammo, and I did about 100 rounds here, functionally it was fine, but again, we have those cracked casings. Okay, here I'm switching over to the target ammunition. And here on the target ammunition, the ammunition fired before was their hunting load. Here on the target ammunition, I did have cracked casings. So I had 5 cracked casings out of 50 fired on the hunting loads. On the target loads, I had 4 cracked casings, but no failures to feed, fire, or eject. So the testing here went well, again, except for that ammunition issue, which they have said that they are trying to get to the bottom of. There, as I mentioned before, I was having issues with the little cocking assist wing that kept backing out during shooting, which was kind of an annoyance. Now here's a 10mm test. I was shooting Underwood ammunition, which is not really a mainline manufacturer. It is SAMI spec ammo, but I did have some issues here. Again, 10 rounds in the magazine. Slide failed to go into battery. Just there, I was able to push it into battery and then fire, but here I had the same malfunction. I was unable to push it back into battery. I had to take out the magazine and extract the round. Put the magazine back in and get back to it. Everything chambered fine, but again, same malfunction there. So I was getting to the point where I was getting about 5 malfunctions out of the 10 rounds, so a 50% failure rate, failure to come completely back to battery. Now, to be fair, I had one type of ammunition to test with me that day. I was not a main producer of ammunition, not like PMC or anything else. Now, of course, firearms in this price point should handle most loads, but again, there are going to be things that certain firearms do not like. I have to be fair in both regards, showing you the issues plus the potential reasons for why. But the 10mm test did not go well. I did not try the 10mm on the other handgun before sending it in. Had to retighten that down. Now here's the 40. This is PMC bronze, 180 grain. And the recoil impulse on this was actually very nice. Very controllable, very gentle shooting. Actually, shooting it in 40 was my probably most enjoyable. I could, plink around and shoot at targets all day long in 40, and I imagine even a 9mm is going to be even better. There were some issues here, and I'm sure we're about to encounter one of them. There we had that was just a failure to hold the slide open, but everything else functioned fine. Remember, 50 rounds were fired. Here you're only going to see 2 magazines. So we had a failure to hold open the slide. And here was a jam. This was a failure to feed, so it didn't quite make it into the barrel. Extracted the round and got back to it. And then we held open, but the last round did not fully eject, so it did stay in the chamber. Had there been another round in there ready to fire, it would have stovepiped the round, most likely. Okay, so let's do some final takeaways with this pistol. Okay, the FK Brno PSD. PSD stands for Police, Sport, and Defense. The two primary purposes for this rifle, the niches it is looking to fill, is one for pretty much the primary one is for police and defense contract type work. That's pretty obvious if you look at the marketing videos on YouTube, as well as photos and whatnot they have. Also, we got a little press kit handbook to go through to talk about the development process they went through on this design, and it was really the need for defense workers to have a better, not a secondary weapon, but a second primary weapon. They put this up in testing against things like AKs. Tested, ballistics. 100-meter standoff is the distance that they were looking to achieve, which is what they found, through contract work in Afghanistan, that 100 to 150 meters was a typical engagement range. They wanted a product with a caliber that could achieve that well and effectively, especially with the quick deploy and folding stock that this could be fit onto. The secondary use, and what's probably most commonly going to be used for, at least here stateside as a civilian sidearm, is for hunting. Of course, the rounds that they produce are, terminally and ballistically okay and acceptable for medium to large game, including hogs, stag, deer, things like that. Now, as you guys know, I am not a ballistics channel. I don't really get into muzzle energies, velocities, and ballistics. Unfortunately, that is a big facet of what makes this an interesting package, but I do not really get into that. I'm more into the fit, the function, does it work, and what is its market or its place in the market here for consumers, when you're considering spending your money on this as compared to other options. Now, there are a lot of other videos that get into the ballistics. I definitely recommend going and taking a look at those to get the full picture of the potential that this round has. The 7.5 FK round is not going to be inexpensive, and it is a proprietary cartridge made by FK Brno. I don't know if other manufacturers will come on board with the ammunition. I don't know if they want to keep it in-house only. That's yet to be determined. Remember, the field pistol was their only offering before this at $7,500. It was very much a niche market. They've made the move to basically make the same pattern. It is the same mechanics here, but it is in a polymer frame at a more affordable price. If to you, $1,600 to $1,800 is an affordable option. If that ammo, if you want to go plinking, you want to have something that's fun to shoot, I am telling you the 40 actually was a lot of fun to go out and shoot. I imagine the 9 is just as light, or I'm sure it's lighter. I could really have taken this out with 40 all day long. I actually really enjoyed shooting it more in the 40 than I did in the 7.5. Just again, I was plinking at targets. I wasn't out hunting or anything. So really, really cool and really gentle shooting, nice range gun, you know, for that purpose there as well. With the ability, excuse me, to put on an optics plate, I could see people using this for competition if it does fit within the requirements of the overall size for competition, or again just out for fun. And again, you do have the hunting and the you know, defensive sort of aspect there as well with the 7.5 rounds. So a very dynamic firearm. To get the pistol with a barrel conversion at $1,800, you know, when you look at other things like the CZ Shadow 2s that are out on the market, some of the higher end 1911s, is it unreasonable for the price? Honestly, I really don't think it's unreasonable. I mean, I think for what you're getting, it's a very fair market price. And again, it's really not outside of the realm of what a lot of people can afford when they're looking into getting into something like this. Extra barrels are typically about $150, being that they come with a barrel. You know, consider this being, you know, a base $1,500 price point, plus you get the barrel. That's kind of what you're paying for. You're kind of forced into paying for it, but I would get it with the conversion anyway. Again, it's not unreasonable for what you're getting. It is very well made and everything like that. Now let's get to the problems. The problems that I had, again, I wanted to be very clear about that. The cases that are cracking, I've already gone over. That has been brought to their attention. They are working on resolving that. I will tell you as somebody that, now I'm not a consumer of this. I did not buy this. I was clear about that. But if I was having this issue and I called and I got the response that I got, I would be happy and satisfied. They originally, you know, anticipated that the problem was the brass. Whether it really is or isn't, I don't know, but that's what they're telling me. I have no reason to believe they're lying. They weren't trying to hide anything. They were very much in favor of me being as honest as I could in this review. So, you know, kudos to them on that. But they sent me out a whole new handgun, you know, to replace the first one, even though the handgun itself had no issues. Whether, again, if you're having warranty issues yourself, if you had a problem, would they give you that level of care? I understand. I'm reviewing the product. I don't know, but I will tell you my experience was good. They seem to be caring and very much interested in the success of their product, which I'm sure most companies would be. The issues that I experienced with this handgun, the jamming and everything. First, the 10mm. The 10mm, I don't know. I wish I had more mainline ammunition to test against that. I'm not going to just say definitively this thing was a total fail, because again, a real test would have included other brands of ammunition to determine, you know, if it was the handgun, not the ammo, and I ran PMC and I ran like Winchester, you know, whatever else in 10mm, and it still continued to have the problems, then, you know, I would definitively say yes, it's the issue with the gun. It doesn't look good that it didn't cycle the Underwood ammo I had brought with me, but it didn't tell the whole story. This I am, like I mentioned, keeping, so I will continue to take it out and shoot it. The next time I go to the range, I'm going to try and get some other 10mm ammo. Ammo right now, as you guys know, is pretty tough. I will test it. If it continues to have problems, I will let you guys know that in a separate video. The 40 PMC, again, I did have 2 failures out of 50. That's not good. I'm not going to lie. That's not good on a $1,600-$1,700 handgun. It was not designed for the 40, but if it's marketed as in handling the 40, then, you know, it should have handled the 40. I also did not take any other ammunition out, but the PMC bronze ammunition is a main line, commonly found brand of ammunition, and honestly, it should function it well, again, at this price point, if it's going to be advertised as being a multi-caliber design. That's just my feedback there. And again, I mentioned that to my rep at FK Brno, and he's going to bring that data to their engineering department. Final thoughts on this. I do like it. I really do like it. It's not really within the realms of what I would personally own. You guys know I like a lot of the Milsurp stuff, older stuff. I like Glocks. You know, I'm a pretty bare bones kind of guy. The race gun, cool, updated, versatile handguns are not really what I spend my money on, but I can tell you, for somebody who is interested in this type of thing, I do not think that you would be disappointed. The other reviews I have seen, I haven't seen any footage of malfunctions, jamming, anything like that. Again, I did have 3 light primer strikes on this with the ammunition provided. You guys saw that in the video. That can't be a result of limp wristing or anything like that, so I don't know what was going on there. Those are my only 3 failures out of about 250 to 300 rounds fired between the 2 handguns, so take that for what you will. That is data, and you guys should definitely consider that when you're looking at this. Finally, this is an early firearm. It is not in mainline production yet. Again, this is serial number 27, the 27th one made. I'm assuming it's the 27th one made. So early release products like this do have bugs that do need to be worked out. I was very fair about this in my SIG 365 review. That had tremendous issues with firing pin drag. It got re-released a whole year after its initial release, and right now it's touted as being one of the best concealed carry firearms on the market. The Colt Python, another thing with the cylinder not advancing. So, early bugs do need to be worked out. That was part of the reason they sent these things out for review and evaluation and testing. And I will say that the issues I have found, not only am I reporting them to you, they have been fully disclosed to FK Brno, and I know that they are taking steps to try and address those issues so that those same issues with brass or jams or anything like that hopefully do not show up in your product should you choose to buy one. Well, guys, I'm going to go ahead and leave you off there. Thank you so much for taking a look at this video. I know it was a little bit on the longer side as far as reviews go. I wanted to be as thorough as I could. If you guys enjoyed this video, please let me know by hitting that like button. Also consider hitting that thumbs up button and subscribe if you want to see more content like this. I'm going to leave you guys off there. I am Chris with Marksman Shooting Sports in Westfield, Indiana. You are watching Marksman TV. I will see you next time.